Good morning, Mr. Kaminsky.
Good morning.
You're an honest person, right?
I am, yes. I like to think so.
And if you saw something that was going wrong, you would tell someone about it, right?
Well, for the most part, if I think it's going to take away from the safety of anybody else.
So if you thought that someone was committing a crime, you would call the police?
Well, I'm more worried about safety of people. Like, what other people do in their time is their business, but I worry about safety. I don't want anyone else to get hurt.
Okay, let's talk about the summer of 2012. You went to Rock the World that summer, right?
Yeah, I go pretty frequently. I've been going for the last 3 years or so.
And during that summer, you would usually pay for your admissions in cash.
Absolutely. One tour pass.
And one point in time during the summer, you encountered Mr. Cameron Poole, right?
Yeah, I came across him a couple of times. He was the main guy that worked the ticket booth.
And when you were working, or when you saw him at the ticket booth, you saw that he took your money and put a little bit of it off to the side.
Yeah, I saw him do that once.
And when you saw him put that money off to the side, you also saw him take a wristband from a different stack.
Yeah, I saw that.
And that wristband, you noticed that it was faded.
Yeah, I was actually pretty upset about it one time. The time I saw it, it was cheap and paper-like.
It was flimsy.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a yes?
Yes.
And it didn't have the numbers that the wristbands usually had on it.
No, it didn't have a serial number. The wristband was really thin. It just seemed really cheap.
And like you said, you were upset about the difference in these wristbands, right?
I was.
And so you brought this up to Mr. Poole, didn't you?
I did. I confronted him. I didn't want to have this cheap thing. I wear a suit. I drive a limo. I'm not going to walk around with a papery wristband.
And when you confronted Mr. Poole told you that he and a few friends were stealing from World, didn't he?
Yeah, he said that the owner was ripping them off and then he was like cutting pay. So, yeah, he said he was taking some money off the top.
Mr. Poole said he and a few friends were stealing from World.
Yes.
He also told you that those friends were distributing the money throughout the park to its employees.
Yeah, kind of like a modern-day Robin Hood thing, like steal from the rich, give to the poor kind of thing.
So when Mr. Poole admitted that he was stealing to you, you told someone about this, right?
No, I did not.
And you told someone that I'm assuming that Mr. Poole admitted that he was distributing this money to his friends.
Well, I told my wife because I thought it was kind of a funny story, but no, I didn't tell the police because I've driven Mr. Longstreet around and I know he can be a real cheap kind of guy, so.
Now, you know the defendant, don't you?
With Bowman? Yes.
You've spoken to Whit Bowman before?
Yeah, like I said, I've been coming to the park for 3 years or so. She's always on the rides, taking care of everybody.
And you think that the defendant is one of your favorite ride operators?
Yeah, she always was a blast. She was nice to talk to. She wasn't ever too stuck up. She always takes some time to help out little old ladies get on or off the ride, you know, good stuff.
The defendant is one of your favorite ride operators because usually the defendant makes modifications to the rides.
Well, it depends what you call modifications, but yeah, she always knew how to work the ride pretty well.
And so she would make the ride go faster than it was supposed to?
It felt like it. It was always a good time.
Now, on August 30th of 2012, you were at Rock the World.
Yes, I was.
The defendant was at the park that day, too.
Yeah, she works there. Usually that's where she'll be.
And the defendant seems to be a little distracted to you on that day, right?
Yeah, I don't usually go into someone's personal life too much, but yeah, she seemed like she was stressing about something.
The defendant kept closing down her ride that day, didn't she?
Yeah, I don't think she liked that ride very much. She kept on saying how she wasn't a huge fan of it.
Around 8 p.m., the defendant completely abandoned her ride, right?
Yeah, I thought it might have broken down or something. I don't work at the park, so I just assumed that something was wrong with it, so she shut the gates and shut it down.
And when the defendant completely abandoned her ride, she went to work at the Tunnel of Terror ride.
Yep, yeah, that's where she went.
And you were in line for the Tunnel of Terror ride at about 8 p.m., right?
Yeah, that's just around the time when I got that text message.
Right, and you got the text message, so you got out of line to leave the park.
Yeah, I started heading out towards the main gate.
And when you were heading out towards the main gate, you saw a security guard, right?
Yeah, it was Winston Thomas, I believe, and Cameron Poole.
And Winston Thomas was chasing Cameron Poole.
Yeah, he sure was. For an old guy, he knew how to move.
Now, when you saw the security guard, you saw that he had a gun in his hand.
It sure is what it looked like.
And, Mr. Kaminsky, you didn't report this to the police, did you?
Well, since it was a security guard, I figured they'd already have called the police or radioed something in, and I had a job to do, so I got up to my car as quickly as I could.
So when you saw someone being chased with a gun, you didn't call the police?
I figured someone would. I just figured I'd get going with my day. There was a park full of people. There's got to count there's me 100 or so phone calls. I thought it would be necessary for an extra one, right? Overload the system.
So you did not call the police?
No, I didn't.
Now, you arrived to the grocery store that it was about a mile away,
Yep, just around the mile.
and when you arrived there, you waited for your customer.
Yeah, I was waiting a couple of minutes.
And your customer showed up, right?
Yeah, it was Cameron Poole. He kind of jumped out of the bush. It was pretty strange, actually.
That Cameron Poole you just mentioned, that was the same person that was being chased by a security guard with a gun.
That was sure him, and the same guy that gave me the cheap wristband.
And you let Cameron Poole in your car,
Yeah, opened the door for him, put him in there. He handed me a big stack of cash. Gotta treat him with courtesy.
and you took him to the Midlands Marina.
That's exactly where I took him.
Now, in this car ride, Mr. Poole was on the phone, correct?
Yeah, I believe he was on the phone.
And you heard him on the phone because your speaker function in your car was on.
Yeah, I put up the blinds, but he said he was making phone calls, but nobody has privacy in my cab. I need to know what's going on. I can have something serious going on in my car. So I had the window up and the microphone turned on, yes.
And in one of these conversations, the first one actually, you recognized the voice of the defendant, right?
I didn't recognize it for sure, but I'd seen Whit about, I don't know, like 8 o'clock, like earlier before I left the ride, so it kind of sounded a little bit like Whit, yeah.
So Cameron Poole was talking to someone on speakerphone,
Yeah, it was on speakerphone.
and the person that he was talking to sounded like the defendant.
It did sound kind of like the defendant, but she had one of those cheap Androids, so you can never tell if Cameron Poole who exactly it was. It was kind of fuzzy.
And Cameron Poole told the defendant that we were going to get caught, right?
No.
That's not what Cameron Poole said?
Cameron Poole did not tell the defendant they were going to get caught.
Cameron Poole said that we were going to get caught, right?
That's what Cameron Poole said to the person on the other end of the phone. We weren't sure who it was.
Cameron Poole said to that person on the other end of the phone, I used your knife. I put it in Floyd's face and said, I'm going to carve up your face if you don't hand me the money.
Yes, that's exactly what Cameron Poole told the other person on the other end of the line.
And Cameron Poole also told the other person on the end of the line, you knew this could happen. You'll get your share someday.
That's exactly what they said to the person on the other end of the phone.
Now, Mr. Kaminsky, I'm sure when you heard all of these statements, you had to have called the police at this point.
No, actually I didn't. I was tired. When I dropped him off, I went straight home.
In fact, when you dropped Mr. Poole off, he offered you an extra $500 to keep quiet.
Yes, he did.
And the only time you told anybody anything was when the police came knocking at your door the next morning.
Yeah, it was bright and early. Like, I didn't get back from dropping him off at the marina till probably close to midnight. Went home, kissed the wife goodnight, went to bed. And then bright and early, about 6 o'clock, Mr. Kimball came up to our door.
So you didn't tell anybody anything until the police came knocking at your door.
No, I was sleeping like a baby.
Thank you, Mr. Kaminsky. I have no further questions of this witness, Your Honor.
Is there a redirect of this witness?
No, at this time, I just ask the witness to be excused.
Mr. Kaminsky, you are excused.